Welcome to the Thrive Talks podcast. We're your hosts, Jamie Smith and
Tara Galuska
from Thrive Art Studio.
We believe that being an artist is very important and often lonely work. So here at Thrive, we host monthly mastermind meetings with groups of female, gender fluid, and gender non-binary artists from all around the world. We support and help each other stay accountable and motivated in our art businesses and our art practices.
Thrive Mastermind actually started with just 6 of my artist friends at my studio in 2015. At that time, little did we know we were actually starting a movement.
At Thrive, we believe the keys to success are to make art, meet your people, and do the work.
Part of this doing the work are these monthly check-ins with each other. They help us stay inspired, motivated, and accountable, which is so hard when you're doing this all on your own. Mastermind meetings follow a specific structure, and this podcast follows the very same one.
So, whether you're a Thrive Mastermind member, a fellow artist, or you're just curious about what it is that artists do and talk about, we are excited to invite you to share in our discussions.
Welcome to episode 9 of the Thrive Talks podcast. Today we have a special guest, Ola Volo. And Ola Volo has a BFA from Emily Carr, is a Canadian illustrator from Kazakhstan with a distinctive style drawn from history, multiculturalism, and folklore. Her intricate works bring animals, people, architecture, and nature together to articulate diverse stories rich with symbolism and elaborate forms. Ola creates winding narratives that acknowledge the subtleties of human nature while celebrating the little surprises of the everyday. She works with large clients like Lululemon, Starbucks, and Volkswagen, does murals all over the world, and has created her work into a line of textiles and patterns. She even does her own personal paintings, and we're so excited to have her here.
Yes, Ola was part of our very first Thrive Mastermind group and has been a supporter all along the way. She's been a member for the last year in our online groups.
Welcome, Ola.
Hi, guys. So good to be here with you guys on the podcast. I am excited for this hour and a bit to chat more.
Yes. Well, last time we went way over and it was an hour and a half. So today we are keeping things in check and we're keeping it an hour. Mm-hmm. Are you up for the challenge, ladies?
Yes.
I am for this challenge. Yes, let's do this.
So our last episode, Ola, we talked with April Lasher, and it was our January episode. So we had lots to talk about with the new year, and we all shared our word of the year, and mine is growth, and Tara's is
abundance.
Do you have a word of the year?
Yes. So I've been thinking a lot about this, and I'm currently in Montreal. This is a recent move here, and it's just been a lot of changes. And this, starting up this year, I was thinking more about what's the focus and what's what the outcome I want to happen at this time next year. And the words that really kind of resonated with me was, I'm here to create. I'm here to really push myself to push my work and push my concepts with my work, but also to really connect with a completely new world, across Canada on the other side, to a completely new community that I'm just getting to know. So I chose these 2 words. I couldn't stick with one because they intertwine with each other, I think, being a newbie in Montreal. So those are my 2 words.
Awesome. And love that your word, one of them is create, and you just got your new studio. So a great place to create.
Yes, exactly. I mean, that was sort of, it was funny that we talk about, you and I, Jamie, we talked about this in December about really setting goals and sort of making them very clear, and the intentions to be that's what I want by this time, and this is my next step, and sort of laying it out, not giving it too much room for chance, but more a direct goal instead of just a wish list. And I think it really helped me to make the decisions. I made that goal, and when I saw the studio and I saw the space and I knew what I needed to do, I didn't hesitate. And I think that really, that conversation that we had was really helpful.
Well, I am very proud of you because you said it, and then the next probably the next text I got was a picture of a new studio. So good on you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I wanted to say too, speaking of spaces, is that we have been loving our Thrive room and we've moved to a new home. And Ola came down all the way from Montreal and painted a mural in the Thrive meeting room. And we love it, Ola.
Oh, I'm so happy you guys love it. It was such an amazing experience. The space is huge. And I couldn't imagine like a cooler space, a more like a fitted space for you guys to move into, because it's just like the minute you walk in, you feel that sort of like all the entrepreneurs are there working and they're with a purpose and in that headspace. And as an artist, I think observing that is so relatable. Like I can't often relate whenever I walk into an office space and everybody has like works for one company and everybody has a role and sort of, but here you can really feel that everybody has sort of like runs their own show in some way. So I thought it was such a interesting place to move in for you guys. So I'm very glad to contribute something.
Thanks, Ola. We're really excited.
Well, we found it such a great collaboration with the team at The Profile because it is a co-working space. And I think Tara can agree here that we never imagined leaving Thrive, the studio space in general, and then also going to a co-working space. Mm-hmm. And a big belief of theirs is to open up co-working and that it shouldn't just be for the typical tech boy who's building a web-based company with his team. And so they really want to bring in other types of people. So to have artists in that space and, female artists there, I think it's a really neat fit and there's a real energy there.
Yeah, I felt that. I really felt that. And I'm excited to see, I'm looking forward to coming back in the spring and, visiting you guys again, but also seeing how the artwork shapes, like all the other murals that I haven't seen that have gone up since I've left, and how it has shaped the environment. So it's going to be really interesting to see the response and sort of what comes out of it as you guys move forward and, expand and invite more artists to come in and do this.
Yeah. Well, it's neat. The vision there with The Profile is to have our mural residency program. So Thrive members can apply to do a mural, and for lots of them, it's their first mural, not Ola's, but a lot of them. And so we just had 3 other ones go in. So Kari Christensen, Laura Yu, and Tierney Milne. And it's been so cool seeing that work transform the spaces. So by the time you get in the spring, I think there'll be even more.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So I'm not keeping us on track. I said it was going to be an hour. So let's go to question 1, shall we? Tara, is there something you've been working on that you're really excited about?
Yeah, I'm excited. I've done a whole bunch of work over the last 2 months. And
you have.
Yeah, I have. That was a big goal of mine. It continues to be. My main focus is to just make. But I scanned it all, photographed it all, and now I'm ready to schedule it to post on Instagram and share it with people. And I feel really ready and excited to do that.
That's pretty huge.
Yes.
Amazing. I can't wait to see all the new work.
Thanks, Ola.
Ola, what about you, hun? What have you been working on that you're excited about?
I guess something that's been on my mind forever, like ever since I can remember when I started.
I can vouch for that too, Ola, ever since I can remember.
Yes, that is having an online store and like running it and making sure it's all exactly how I wanted it to be, but also that it's functioning. And I'm I think I'm a week away from finally launching it, which is so freaking exciting. I'm so curious how it's going to go. So I am kind of ready for that. But also for the past, I guess, all of January, I've been most of January, I've been preparing contracts, writing emails, jumping on phone calls, in the amount of stuff that goes in working with clients to do murals and to really execute their stories well. It takes a long, the prep is the hardest part and it takes forever. And I understand that it's all extremely important to nail it from the get-go. So that's why I like take the time to ask the right questions, to have meetings, like a bunch of meetings before we actually get to the design. And so it's been a lot of this, and I'm like booking all the tickets to go see the actual walls in person, like the one in Toronto, the one in Chicago, so that before I even get to designing, I can feel the space and know the space, because I've realized how many times like I've kind of thought like, kind of undermined that. I was like, don't worry, just send me a picture. But the thing is, the minute you walk into a space, it really does affect like your vision and how much you feel for that space. So you want to do like the best of the best. And sometimes when I don't see the wall in person, I don't know, I don't have that connection. And so booking all the trips to put in the time for these walls.
That's awesome. So I think you've really opened up our eyes too to the amount of scheduling for these big projects and admin time to work with clients.
Oh my gosh, so much. And it's interesting that I sometimes I do get frustrated how much time it gets, but it's like if I don't have like 7 different things happening at the same time, like it doesn't feel normal, because all these projects get executed in very different times. One in May, one in July, one in February, one in March. But everybody prepared, like January is like a prep thing for everyone.
Right. Brutal. I'm sure, Ola, they're setting their words for the year, and it's murals or Ola, and then you get called.
So that's the kind of headspace I'm in this month, I guess.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, it's all the hard work to then go and do the work. So it's all work.
Yeah, and I think that's really something for people who want to get into murals to think about when you're pricing them, is to think about admin time. You should be getting paid for that, because it's the worst part.
And before you even get to designing, like making sure, like one of the big things is before I even touch any pen or paper or even start brainstorming, that like the deposit is already like their commitment to the work is just as much as my commitment to the work. So they already paid the 30% or the 50%, depending on the contract. That's already sort of like solidified and concluded, and that's it. So one of the things I really don't ever recommend, and I made that mistakes many times, is to jump right into work just because I'm so excited, right? I think that admin stuff is so important, and to make sure that the communication is set to be very clear and that everyone's like in it for the right reason, you know? And I really, like, before I even start designing, this is why I'm like, right now I haven't even designed anything, and there's already like so many emails about potential designs, but I was like, okay, it's great, but I think it's important that everybody is like on the same page when it comes to like, okay, we're doing this and we're doing this right, and everyone's got the email and they got the contract and everybody knows the deadlines, and then
and then you get to do your actual job of making the art.
Exactly. Maybe one day I can have like a amazing assistant who does all the stuff for me, but until then.
Yeah, we'll help you hire them.
Great. Love it.
We got you. So what I've been working on is I've been working to get ready to go to Australia, and I leave next week, and it's for one of my bestie's weddings. He's getting married to a beautiful lady named Anne, and I'm very excited to have some time and to go to the sun. And I made them a painting for their wedding, so I'm actually really excited to give them my art. But the work part is that I've been panicked because I can't imagine going next week. But I will get it all done, and it will be great. And Tara is a queen, and she will be fine.
Can you hear her trying to convince herself, Ola? She sounds not too confident, but I think by the time she's on the plane, you will feel that way.
I hope so.
It's going to be good.
Yeah, Jamie, that flight of 14 hours to, I don't know where your layover is, I guess New Zealand. Is it in New Zealand?
Oh, it's in Hong Kong.
Okay. Oh, yes, that's right, Hong Kong. That long flight is going to snap you right out of your work mode.
Right?
I didn't look back. So no, it's going to be, I'm so excited for you, Jamie. I think you it's you need this, and I think it's going to be a nice break, but also just like enjoy yourself. You're going for a wedding. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, I can do it.
Yeah.
I can do it. So we are on question 2. Tara, share with us something you learned this month.
So this month, I went to the Takashi Murakami lecture that he gave for the Vancouver Art Gallery. He's got a show, The Octopus Eats Its Own Leg. It's just opened it up at the beginning of February, and it is a major retrospective of 30 years worth of work. And I haven't seen the work yet, the exhibition, but I saw this lecture and it was so interesting. You guys would have loved it. He came out, he was wearing a beautiful octopus hat and a suit with an octopus, and he looked like $1 million, and he looked like an artist. And I was expecting maybe something really kooky and weird, and he was going to talk about inspiration and the art, and I was not going to understand a word of it, but I was all in. And instead, what I got was to hear from somebody who's very business-minded and very focused on the market, branding, all of the things we basically talk about at Thrive, and go into being a successful artist. This is business. So it was really funny because I don't think anyone expected it necessarily, because there's supposed to be the idea of this mystique. But instead, he talked about the fact that when he thinks about work, the market decides his audience, or he has a few different audiences for his work, and he's deliberately built those. So he has different price points for his work. And he also, something that I thought was really interesting is Bill said before we both went together, and he said beforehand, he's like, Tara, do you want to be like, is this what you want as an artist, to be, doing all these things? And I said, I don't know. I think the reality of that and the work that goes into that and the life of that, I don't know if that's what I want. And so we really got a glimpse into that. So Ola, he has 300 employees.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so amazing, because so much can get done, but that is a huge amount of responsibility. That's 300 people whose lives and families depend on their paychecks. And so he talked about that. And he also, there was so much, but one last thing that I really found interesting is he has a gallery, and he spoke about before when he was only an artist, and he kind of felt maybe some resentment around how much of a chunk of his money the gallery would get. But now that he has one, he's like, yeah, it cost me about $600,000 and 10 years worth of work to make one of my artists successful.
Wow. And he gets a return.
And that he gets a return.
After that.
Yeah, 10 years. And that's what a lot of people say about any type of business. Like, if you can stay in for 10 years, that's when it kind of really kind of happens. But
I think that's really important, because it's easy to look at the gallery and say, why do they get half?
Even doing?
But they're paying for the space and the heating and the employees.
Massive overheads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's such an interesting insight. Especially when it comes to producing his own work. Like, did he talk anything about still having how do you art direct so many people? How do you always come up with new things for so many employees? Like, that's my sort of curiosity about the artists that have like 10 to 15 people or 300 people working for them. How does the work stay close to their heart, and doesn't look like it's mass produced?
That would have been a great question to ask. I think, he shared that he works 24 hours a day. He's like, I'm a workaholic. I work all the time. I don't sleep. So
he lives in the studio.
It would be interesting to be like, but how do you keep feeling fresh and
He
excited.
wears his octopus hat. Oh, feeling fresh.
Oh, yeah. Looking fresh.
Looking fresh. I saw pictures. He looked amazing. He looked like he looked
Yeah, we'll try to find one for the show notes because it's worth having a look. Ola, what have you learned this month?
Oh my God, I wish it was something so much more exciting than what I'm going to share. But Tara, that sounds so cool. I can't wait to come back and check out the exhibition. What I learned this month is I always hated putting together presentations. Like whenever you had to submit anything for a public project, like for the city of Vancouver or whatever, I rarely do that these days. But when I do, one of the components is always submitting a portfolio. And I haven't submitted a portfolio in a very long time, partially because I do different kind of works, but I hate putting together presentations. Like they always look a little bit weak and they look a bit generic, and I don't know. I'm like, that doesn't really highlight my work well, and I don't know. And so I had to put together a presentation for like a recent big presentation I had to do in Vancouver, and I was like, it's a bunch of professionals, and I need to make my work talk for me. Like, as much as I can show them the artwork, how do I bring it to life without like constantly, without just, because it's flat, it doesn't move, it's there, that's the piece that I created, but it doesn't have that wow factor. And so, like whenever you're putting a mural in front of somebody, because it's so big and because it, takes up space, it has such an effect on people and on myself. And so I started using Keynotes, and there's this part in Keynotes which is like it's like to make a presentation. It's kind of like what's it called, PowerPoint, but through Mac. And so they have this ability to program so that you can animate, so it zooms into the image, into a particular section that you're interested in, and then it zooms right out and it zooms back in, and it can scroll all through the artwork across. And so I had this really long, narrow, mural proposal. It was like something like 70 feet mural proposal, but it was very narrow, like I think only 10 feet. So imagine how long that piece of art is. It's just super narrow. And how ineffective is it going to look on a regular size PDF? So I had the artwork blown up on this huge screen, and it scrolled slowly through the artwork, and it just zoomed in into this parts that I wanted to bring up. And I kid you not, it was one of my best presentations I've done.
That's awesome.
So cool.
Thank the freaking Keynotes. I've never used it, but I was like, yeah, damn, that was really on point.
I love that too, because the biggest thing with art is helping the client or whoever's buying your work helping them see that this is going to look great in their space and connecting them to the piece. So that is amazing that you were able to actually say, this is how it's going to feel if you were walking along this wall and looking at it.
Yeah. And the great part is also you can take a picture off the wall and mock it up in Photoshop with perspective, select the image, then screw around with the perspectives, mock it up on the wall so you can know. So you will know, but the client will have a much better idea, and zoom in with this animated feature, and it looks so real, and it gives you so much more. I felt like such a pro. I was like, yeah, this is what we're going to aim for. This is an experience. This is an installation. And they were very keen. So I was really happy to get that response. Yeah.
Feeling like a pro is what it's all about, because it doesn't happen all that often in my life. And if Keynote can help, I'm in.
Telling you, girl. Keynote.
Keynote. Good segue. Keynote. I spoke on a panel. I wasn't the keynote, but I was on a panel. And it was at the Richmond Art Gallery, so a public art gallery close by Vancouver. And I was asked to speak on the theme of igniting connections. And so I was up there with 3 other lovely male community builders. And I was wearing my kimono, as we do. And I was really nervous going into it. I had a whole thing about feeling like a fraud and not sure what I was going to talk about and how that would go. And the minute I was up there and they started asking questions, bossy Thrive Jamie came out.
Yay!
I had so much to say. I'm banking on the idea that it was useful. I think it was. And it was a big confidence booster because I need to just have confidence in knowing that if I'm asked to do speaking engagements like this, they're asking me for a reason, and I have a lot to offer, and building this community has been my life. And so I am an expert because I've spent many hours thinking about this type of thing. So I really enjoyed myself, and I'd love to do more of them. And going into it, I had decided that I was going to retire after my panel discussion. I'm back in the game, people, coming out of retirement.
Like a pro. Amazing.
Like a pro. Now I just need my keynote presentation behind me.
Oh, with the zooming.
With the zooming, me in a kimono. Pro.
Yeah. Call her. She's ready.
So, question 3, what or who are you inspired by right now? Tara, what are you inspired by?
I am inspired by this weekend, Ola. Jamie and I went to Victoria, and it's beautiful and lovely. And we did our first ever one night only Thrive Mastermind meeting. And it was with 10 artists. Some of them were Thrive members, just a couple, most of them we had never met before. And we did exactly what we are doing right now on the podcast, asking the 6 questions, going around, having great conversations. And it was so fun and exciting. And I felt really inspired. I walked away feeling inspired, excited as an artist, but also about the potential of maybe doing these some other places.
Just maybe. I like this echo idea.
I don't know.
I like it.
Yeah, we need more sound effects. Boing. So I know we have to be careful what we put out to the universe, but I think I'm going to just say it. If you have a place or a space, or you think that Thrive Mastermind should pop up for one night only, get in touch. info@thriveartstudio.com.
Kimono's on, baby.
Yeah, it was so fun.
Montreal, Sarah. I don't know.
Ola, would you come to our pop-up mastermind meeting in Montreal?
We'll host it. We can host it at the studio.
At your space.
Ola's new studio.
Yes.
See? You put it out to the universe.
Well, and we've got a friend of Thrive, Zoe Pollock, so maybe we could let her know. Amy Henny-Brown's in Montreal at the moment, so maybe when you get back from Australia, we'll jump on another plane.
Ola, get ready.
I'm just waiting for you, Jimmy, and you, Tara. Just get on that plane. It's about a 5-hour flight. And honestly, so the space I'm in is called Les Varts, and it's like in the heart of the plateau. And they have a huge gallery, and they host lots of workshops and different kind of exhibitions. So I think this would be a really cool place to host something like this.
Ooh, she's a good saleswoman.
Well, yeah. I mean, I didn't have to go too far for the universe to say, okay, here's your space.
You ask and you will receive.
Uh-huh.
Ola, what are you inspired by right now?
So I am inspired by this space that I'm in, because I came in and it used to be an old church. So now it's been remade into artist studios. And so not so long ago, only a year ago. So it was pretty roughed up. So I started painting, started redoing the whole studio and polishing off the brick and painting the floor. And it really came a long way since I moved in. But I go to Home Depot, Reno all the time because I pick up paints and brushes and rollers for murals there. But what I discovered is a whole section to build your own furniture. So things like huge panels. I bought this 8-foot long by 4 feet. I think it's 8x4. It's a big piece of wood, and I polished it and I, stained it, whatever. And now it's the new table in the studio. It's so big. I don't know where I would have bought a table this big for the price that I I think it was like $50. And it's great, like, and then now I'm just like finding all these different, just like I'm looking at all the different sections that I can build an easel out of. So it's just a couple of pieces of wood that I put together, that I drilled and kind of formatted, and now I have a big easel. So I realized that it's kind of an interesting place to also make your own furniture. Like, I knew this, but I just never put on the time. And I was like, oh, I don't need that. I'll just buy a table at the, at whatever store I'm gonna go. But I'm making it work with all the tools that they have to offer. Like, there's a bunch of things that have come a long way for me at the studio that I didn't know they had. Or at least that I didn't know that I can manage.
How industrious of you. I'm so proud of you.
It's awesome.
Got the drill out. Yeah, got the drill and hammer out.
We're going to bring you a tool belt when we come out. A pink one, just for fun. Because that's what girls should wear if they're going to use tools.
Yeah.
Pink lady-sized tools. I am very much kidding when I say all of this.
Well, but the next step is going to be to start building frames for the canvases.
Ooh.
Complicated. I mean, how complicated can it be?
Well, if you build a table, you can build a frame.
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
You can build a house.
Build me a house, Ola. My house was built by Ola Volo. I love it.
Be careful what you wish for, Jamie.
Yeah, careful what you put out in the universe. I love that.
She's hosting us to do Mastermind. She's going to build you a home. What else can we hook Ola into?
She did a mural for us.
Yeah.
You're amazing. So this month I've been really inspired by my new website. I launched it, and I've talked about this before, but I invested in it and I got Dazed and Confucius, so Penny Lane's art consulting business, her team, to make it for me. And what I've been really inspired by is it's offered now a place for me to put things and for planning and to motivate me. So before, when I wasn't updating my website and it was just sort of sitting there, when I was making work, the work was kind of just sitting there in the studio. And now with the website, I can see where things need to go. So I put up I only have two of them, 2 florals. And I promised myself, though, that I'd get them up. And then now, seeing that there's only 2, I want to do 3 more. And it's really motivated me to keep going with that series. So I'm really surprised how much of a difference it's made actually to my process and how I'm working on the art. And it's inspiring.
And it's beautiful.
And it's so pretty. So pretty. Awesome. Tara, do you have a new useful resource for us this month?
Yes. This is not exactly new in my life, but I ended up talking to someone about this thing that I love so much, and we both couldn't stop raving about it. And I was like, oh, I should share that on the podcast. So
I got to listen to that first conversation.
Yeah. So you get to listen again about how much I love Chef's Plate. So it's like a meal, it's not a meal delivery. Ingredients delivery. So you can select what meals you want to make that week, and then they all get delivered in a nice refrigerated box, and they take about half an hour to make, which is more than enough time. I don't want to do any more time to make a healthy meal. And it's all pre-packaged and pre-portioned, so there's no waste. And I love it. It's convenient, and there's just a few meals to choose from each week. And it's just, what I really like is the convenience of having less decisions to make. It was brutal. I'd have a long day at work and then be like, oh, what am I going to make for dinner? Do I have this? Do I have that? I just don't care. I just don't have the room to care about that stuff. So being able to just get it delivered and organized is really nice. So
how much is it? Is it affordable?
It is affordable. Yeah. It's even more affordable than what would happen is Bill and I would go and eat out because I just feel like I can't handle this. We've got to just go eat somewhere. So
I know this
Yeah.
answer because
yeah.
I heard all of this. It works out to about $12 a meal
okay.
Oh, really?
per
Damn.
person. Sorry, per person.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
and then you can have like Katie, who is the other person in this conversation, she would often, depending what it was, half her portion and take then lunch the next day.
That's
So then you're
great.
at $6 a meal.
Woo.
Yeah, just ask me about Chef's Plate. I don't
Yeah.
have it, but I know the details.
Yeah. Well, I can't remember how much I paid for it because we signed up for a long time ago. I'm like, I'll pay them anything.
They got her.
They got me. They got me good. And there's, I think in the States, there's like Blue Apron and there's all sorts of them around. So
But it's worth it.
it's worth it for
It sounds
me.
like something I would love. Like I also you can get more creative, and especially like I just started cooking like officially the past year. Before it was like all the basic stuff. Only now I'm starting to get creative with it. But this would be a really good learning tool for me. So,
Yeah, there's some things where I feel like I made something really fancy and
Well, you're so fancy, Tara.
you know me.
You know. You know me.
Now you know my secret.
That's the secret to being fancy. Chef's Plate. Ola, what resource do you have for us this month?
So this month I've been thinking and prepping a bit more for my show that's coming up this October. So it's still a while away, but
Ola, you can't see me, but I'm raising the roof because I'm so excited for your solo show.
Oh, that's so
Oh,
sweet.
I'm
Yes.
doing it too now.
I made Tara do it with my eyes. Okay, we're ready to listen to you now.
So I started to think a lot about what I'm going to be drawing and how was it when I did my last solo show, and a lot of my inspiration last time came from different stories, but when it comes to actual characters that I was painting and designing, a lot of the actually inspiration came from fashion research. And I was living in New York at the time, and I remember I just couldn't avoid fashion. It was just like in your face. Everyone was looking so freaking rad in New York, and I couldn't help but like to integrate that inspiration into my work. And I was looking at a lot of fashion shows and fashion magazines, because at that time I really wanted to become a fashion illustrator or
Really?
like work. Yeah, I wanted to like have my work in like, Bazaar and do like some kind of like editorial piece for their, like an illustration for their magazine. And I still would love that, but like it never happened. I
Well, I
Never
put
say
it
never.
out into the universe, but unfortunately, we can't
we
give you the
can't.
same response you gave us.
I'd love to say, well,
Well,
actually.
actually, we're looking for an editorial piece.
I mean, we are, but we don't have a magazine for it.
And my whole thing is like, well, if I draw fashion, I'll attract, people who are fashion illustrators. But anyway, so I started to revisit that inspiration, and I found all these documentaries on like Netflix and YouTube, and like in particular, I saw this like Dior and I, and there's a documentary Iris, which is about this old lady. I think she's like 93 or something like that, and she's just a fashion icon. And it's just the way these documentaries, they really capture like this, they zoom in into these fabrics, you see the skeleton of these designs. And I don't know, I feel like because I do so much patterns, it directly, like, instead of just looking at a finished piece, when they're doing these zoom ins and talk about how these designers go about with their inspirations and then where their sort of influence comes from, I don't know, it got me all hyped up about the show and about making sure that the influence, how it before came from fashion, that it also has a taste of that in this show as well. So I've been revisiting and looking at a lot of documentaries, and they're amazing. So yeah, Dior and I is amazing. Iris is great. The First Day Monday in May is like a documentary about a thing that happens in New York, the Met Gala, and it's so cool because they really celebrate this idea of museums and fashion and making sure everybody's looking glam. Anyway, so that's my inspo right now. I'm very I'm very excited about diving deeper into that.
Ooh,
I like it.
very exciting. And you've seen the September issue?
Yes.
Isn't it fun? It's a good one.
What is it?
It is a documentary you need to watch about Vogue putting together their September issue.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
So my resource this month has been making quick win videos on my Mac computer. And our quick win videos are little short, like 5 to 25 minute long videos that help Thrive members just learn specific skills. So the one I've been working on is how to write a press release and then how to email that press release to press and those types of things. So they're really quick and educational. And I've been making them in the most simple grassroots way. And that's another word for like shitty way, but they work.
They're really good.
And they're good. And they get the point across. And I just can't believe how technology has made things very easy to get great content out in the world. And I'm really grateful for that. And all I do is I make a slide deck in Canva. And that's a resource I'm obsessed with, canva.com. And then I turn on my Audacity, which is a free software for recording. We do have a mic, but you could also just talk into your computer. And then I turn on the screen recording on the Mac.
On QuickTime.
On QuickTime, that's what I couldn't think of. And then QuickTime's going, and then you put all of that into iMovie.
You got it?
And gosh, it sounds like a lot of steps, but they're very, very easy. And then an iMovie is just, you're clipping down the edits, and I try to do it all in 1 or 2 takes, and I'm just really enjoying them. I find them really creative.
Yeah.
And I'm a movie star, so it's perfect.
You are.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're really useful. It's been great to get to the feedback on them.
I'm a movie star when you can't see my face.
You are listening to a portable Thrive Mastermind meeting. Thrive Mastermind is a year-long program and members connect every month for support, accountability, and community. Applications are always open for visual artists here in Vancouver, Canada, and we have an online program for artists all over the world. Let's hear from our member, Jen Brisson.
I think it's important because it's so cool to have a team of people, and community's been used a lot, like with Mastermind, but I feel like it kind of goes a bit deeper than that. Like I really feel like it's like a family in a way, and it's just the connections that I've been having with a lot of the other artists. It's been really cool, and then just knowing that like again, like they have my back, or if I'm doing a show and I know I've got support, or if I have any concerns about anything that I'm doing, I can turn to them. So it's really cool.
So, question 5, what are you personally and or professionally proud of this month? Tara, what are you proud of?
So my word of the year, Ola, is abundance. And one of the ways I'm looking to attract and appreciate the abundance in my life is to really focus on gratitude. So last month I talked about how on my walk home from work, I would think about what I was grateful for, but I would become so overwhelmed that I would often cry.
Walking along Main Street.
I mean, who cares? I don't care what people think of me. But I've stepped it up a little bit, or changed it so I can cry in the privacy of my own room. So I now have a gratitude journal, and it's just like a little, a very small day planner. So it has about 10 lines. So I write 8 to 10 things that I'm grateful for. And I'm excited because I've been doing it for 2 weeks or so now, and I can look back and see things. And
all she sees is Jamie.
You feature heavily, so does my bed. But I'm really grateful for those things, and it's good to remember. So, I'm really happy that that's becoming part of a nighttime ritual, which is also something we've talked about. And I'm really developing that, and
very cool.
Proud of myself.
Ola, what are you proud of, my dear?
Well, Sarah, thank you for sharing that. I think we all can take a little bit of that and put that to use. I don't know, lately, maybe it's a January thing, maybe it's a beginning of the year thing, but I also find myself very overwhelmed with like, I don't know, I guess part of it is like, I'm so thankful for everything I'm doing and happy for all the opportunities, but also at times feel overwhelmed that I'm like giving away too much, like talking too personal and it's so much, so many questions are about the artwork or in interviews or some kind of like magazines that I don't know and that I have to be very open with them and, still sound personal. And then you come out being like, I just gave like a whole bunch of my personal, like dear information to someone I don't know. And then I started to get very overwhelmed. And I was wondering, like, do you guys feel like as much as you guys are all about sharing, like, how do you, I don't know, I guess what I'm trying to say is that sometimes it becomes a little bit overwhelming in a sense, like, how do I kind of put myself back into balance in my head, even though it could feel overwhelming, but I think writing something in a journal or at least keeping a track of how you feel every day is a really good way to sort of, I guess, check in with yourself. If that would, I think I might take that, Tara, and also put that to use.
Yeah, and what you shared brings up, so I spoke about it a little bit on the podcast, but last year I did a creative mornings talk and it was on compassion, and I went up on there and I was completely open and completely vulnerable. And at the end, I got asked a question. There was a Q&A and it was the very last question. And I was in this space of just complete openness. And I got asked a question that triggered me quite badly and I disassociated. I mean, it's basically everyone who would do a public speaking thing could have happened. So I'm having a reaction right now. Like, it was really pretty rough because the question, it was about Donald Trump and what I would say if I was alone with him. And that thought terrifies me. And as I shared in my answer, so I'm a survivor of childhood sexual abuse and he's an admitted sexual predator and whatever. He's what he is. He's a number of things. And so I had just this reaction because I was so open, so vulnerable, and so that just like exploded. And it was good. I think it was a really positive thing and a really good thing that happened for other people. But for me, it was very hard. And I was really shaken. I had to go see my therapist and really practice a lot of the self-care that I needed to. And one of the things she said is that you don't have to be 100% open. It's okay to protect yourself. And you can still give a lot, but you don't have to give everything. And I listened to some talks, Brene Brown, vulnerability, and all of those things. And Janet Mock also talked about, needing to protect herself. So now when I share, and also on the podcast, like I share a lot of things, and Jamie shares a lot of things, but I have to protect myself. And because if you just give and give and give and give, then you just have nothing left. And it's not sustainable. So I don't know if that helps where you're at, Ola, but that just really brought that up for me. And yeah.
Sarah, thank you. Thanks so much for sharing that. I didn't know that you felt that way and also that you went through all these things, but I think you're right about I know you're right about the fact that it's okay to sometimes draw the line somewhere also when things you want to keep to yourself. I had also like I don't know if I told Jamie, but the next day after the big interview and the filming and everything, I couldn't move. I couldn't look at, I couldn't open my email. I couldn't produce anything. I was like as if I like just like a completely, like as if I was a completely burnt out. And it was just odd because it's not like I worked hard on something. It was more about mental state.
Yeah.
I've never experienced such a burnout before, but I was completely like, I was lost for
Totally.
Well, one thing that I really learned, Tara and I think have both been learning, is that when you're doing so many different things, so with Thrive, like there's the podcast piece, then we do talks, we have groups, there's just a lot of different ways that we're sharing ourselves. And similar to you, Ola, it's the work, it's then going to a new city for a mural, and then in interviews. And when you're doing all that, you're juggling things. And so you kind of have to go from one state to another state. And I think we're trying, it takes more practice for me, I think, to leave room for the vulnerability hangover, as Tara calls it. And I think when you're used to doing a lot of things, you don't realize that until you can't move the next day. Like that became something you realized, Ola. But I bet you there's lots of times in the past where if you had taken a half day off the next day, it wouldn't have felt so bad,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And just because someone asks something doesn't mean you have to answer it as well. That's just one little last nugget that I got. So,
also something from that Tara and I have really talked about, because putting on our own events is with things like Q&A and being interviewed, it can be something that you can say, I would like to see the questions in advance.
Yeah.
And even with a Q&A live, you could say to the organizer, if anyone wants to ask a question, they need to do it before the event, and I'll have my answers ready. And I think we've never thought about it. It's hard to think about saying, I would like this done at your event, but why not? You're the speaker, and you have the right to control how you're sharing.
Yeah, and especially if you're someone who I pride myself on how vulnerable and open I am, but I don't think people, and this has nothing to do with Creative Mornings at all. They were very supportive and kind, and all of those things. But I just mean maybe going forward, really, to be able to get that, I have to be supported, and there's some ways that I can set boundaries on how we can do that.
Yeah. And it is sort of our job for ourselves to protect ourselves, really, as we're talking that. I keep thinking that as we say, and it's easy to kind of swept up in what other people need.
Yeah.
Ola, what are you proud of?
Well, I guess when it comes to speaking about goals and speaking about it, sort of like setting out intentions, like one thing that really resonated with me when I started thinking about talking to you guys about it today, is sort of like maybe it's like a pre-podcast conversation Jamie and I had in December. We were in Miami together, and we spent, a week living together, and she was helping me up with a mural. Thank you, Jamie. It was amazing.
Those white trees have never been filled in with more passion than that day.
Amazing. It was my first Miami Art Basel, and so sharing it with you was so significant, because it was overwhelming and at the same time impactful on my view on what art is today and stuff. So but one of the things that really kind of stood out from that whole trip is our conversations. And we had a bunch of conversations regarding art, but one of them was about setting these goals and sort of like, as I said earlier in the podcast, like sort of not making it sort of so vague, but setting the intention, setting the goal, and sort of like kind of like mapping it out. Well, what do I need for that? And not so look at it as a random idea, but as a sort of something to get to. And I think the concept of writing things down and talking about them, I really believe in this whole thing where it's like, you say it, you write it, it doubles your chances.
It's a formula.
Formula. I don't know what the formula is, but I think, and I kid you not, it happens, and it it works a lot more times than I can admit, like a lot more time than I can even imagine. So one of the things is I'm proud that I went for this space. I went for it's bigger, it's more of a budget than I intended, but at the same time, it's exactly what I envisioned. And now I almost like I come here and I come to work, and all I do is art related things in the studio. And so it's changed my behavior in my everyday life. Like I go home and I cook dinner, enjoy like a movie and stuff, and I don't mix the two together. I try to keep them very separate. So it's teaching me to be disciplined. So I'm on my way. I'm on my way.
So exciting.
Ola, are you saying that you have a life outside of your art practice?
Barely, but yes.
Gotcha. No, I'm very proud of you.
That's awesome.
Really big step.
Thank you. Well, I think it's also I don't know, like one of the things that's helped me have a little bit of a life is living with my boyfriend, and it's like he's not an artist. And
oh my gosh, other people that you have to adjust your lifestyle for? I can't imagine.
I know. He's like, no, like, let's go to a movie. I'm like, what? That doesn't mean I'm going to be productive.
Other people in our lives have come in to help us chill out, I think.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm like, what? Damn, like, that's so important. I mean, we talked about this before, but I had, in the summer, we were camping a lot and just like doing road trips. And I was like, oh my God, I don't even have my tools with me. Like, what am I? Like, and it was such a weird reality where I came back and I was like, oh, I didn't even get that many emails. Like, I didn't miss out on that much stuff. So
yeah, that's so true.
I think that is like, you're so powerful with your thoughts. Being like, I'm going to lose everything. I'm going to miss out on everything. But really, it's all up to you.
Yeah. Such a good point.
Amen.
So, Jamie, you go, girl. You enjoy yourself in Australia.
Thanks. I'll remember that. It's all in my head. So what I'm proud of this month has been really seeing the new space take shape. And with that has been this mural program that we spoke about. And in particular, I was really excited that we have an artist, Kari Christensen, and she's actually a printmaker. And it was really great. She came to see Ola and I when Ola was putting in her mural. And she was very nervous because she'd been selected to do a mural. And as a printmaker, that's not how her process works. It's actually the opposite. Yeah. She's carving in to take away space and now painting. So it was so great to see her and she had that conversation with you, Ola, about her process. And I think that was a huge help.
Yeah.
And so getting her confidence in that way. And then she came in the next day and did it. And it's beautiful. And it's so neat to see her work translated in a totally different medium. And we got some feedback. She's very, very happy. And the space, I mean, it makes such a difference.
Yeah. It makes a difference to my day because I get to look at it all day and I love it. And
we're kind of, we're pretty this is really for self purposes, is that we get to go in there and see this amazing art by Thrive artists.
Exciting. Yeah. And she had Chrissy Arsenault helping her, and they were like the dream team. It was, it was really cool.
So I've been really proud of that happening because it was a big decision for us to change is hard and to decide if we wanted to move, but it's definitely been the right one. So
it's home now.
It's home now. Awesome. So guys, we made it. Question 6.
Okay.
We did it. Tara, do you have anything that you need advice on or want to talk about?
Yeah, I guess what I'd like to talk about is being creative, it's like anything is possible and I could do that, I could do this, or Jamie and I as the Thrive team, we could do anything, like, well, maybe we should. But how do you decide if something is a distraction or an opportunity?
Ola, I feel like you get a lot of opportunities in air quotes that could be distractions.
Yeah, or opportunities that is an opportunity, but you had a different goal in mind.
Tara, it's so interesting that you mentioned that. I was just thinking, like, not the same exact thing, but it comes down to the same thing. Like, how do I say no? And like, how do I filter out projects that are necessary and have a long-term effect, and things that are just like a quick turnaround that won't live on. You know what? I have to give it to my dad, actually. Like, I had a conversation with him this morning, and he was, I was telling him I have this opportunity to do this mural, whatever in US. And I was like, oh, it's such a, it's a big one. It's so big, but like the budget is okay. It's not great, but it's all right. But the project. And he's like, well, the budget is too low and I think you should not do it, And I think he's like always trying to protect me and trying to be like, you should only wait, put your time into things that are going to, make sense for you and for the client, but whatever. And I explained to him that sometimes the way I think about projects today is not how I used to think about projects. And as much as I'm thinking about like the budgets and like whatever, does that make sense? Do I like the client? Do I like their story? Whatever. One of the things that I started to do sort of is like have an agenda for every project. Like the reason I will do this project, because if I hire this person to film it and this person to photograph it, and because it's such an experimental piece, this is going to be an installation, not a mural, but like a mural installation. So on different surfaces, all taking over the whole space. Like we're talking like ceilings, floor, everything. So really it's a world that you create, I'm like, I rarely get that much leeway. So with that gives me an opportunity to really get creative with documentation. And this way the artwork can live on a different way. So it started to be like, that sounds so exciting to me. When I get a project that's too standard, even if the budget is all right, I start to think that I'm going to be creating it with like a bored attitude. It sounds so like snotty, I'm sorry, but like sometimes I'm like, okay, we don't have that much time to create stuff. Like really, time goes by so quickly. So find things that like make you feel like that's a challenge. I'm starting to look at work like this sounds like a project that will lead to X type of projects, and that's the first time I started thinking this year that way, because I see like my work going in a particular direction, and what kind of projects will support that direction. And if it's not supporting, if it's not aligned with that, I'm trying. No, and it's just been hard to turn things down, because I'm so much about like, they all are great, but really there's not that much time. Really, like when you put down your to a project, we have very limited time. So I don't know, Tara, what do you think? How do you go about it?
That was very helpful. I'm digesting it. Yeah, I was really soaking that in, because I do think it is getting to what the goals are. And I set them out. We've set them out at the beginning of this year, what the goals are for Thrive and for my art practice. But I guess lately, just some shiny little pennies along the way have been sparkling their eyes at me. And I just need to keep on track with that.
I also, sort of listening to you guys, made me think about how hard it is sometimes to let go of old goals and old dreams that you at one time were so attached to, and that was the be all end all if you got that. And then things change and it's not the same. And sometimes I find some growing pains in letting go. And it's funny how I think the universe really challenges you sometimes when you've made a decision. No, I'm going to focus on this now. All of a sudden a shiny penny of that old thing will show up and you're like, that's what I had been waiting for. But it's you have to say no to move on to that next phase. And so I really struggle with that.
Yeah. Well, and it reminds me, I'm going to take some of our own advice here, but just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should. I can remember myself saying that to countless other people. So maybe I need to.
And I think Ola is really, what I loved hearing you say, Ola, is just this idea of time. And as artists, money and time are the two things we're lacking, but I totally get it. And I've been there when you're trying to pay bills and money becomes that focus. And, you know, it takes time, but there is a point where you got to start thinking, where do I want to spend my time? Because you actually said this in an interview we did, the video interview in the studio, Ola, and I loved this, that the work you do attracts more of that same work. Yeah. So if you keep saying yes to work that you don't want to do, you're really not helping yourself.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And I still stand by this 100%. Like it's amazing how quickly it could shift when you start, like even when I started doing mural, I didn't start doing murals because that was my only thing. Like I just kind of randomly ended up in that, I guess, atmosphere or in that category. But I loved it. Like I loved it so much. And I was like, that's what I want to do. It's so exciting for me. And so I just started saying no to editorial work, you know, and being like, it takes so much time and I couldn't really have the time. And that gave me so much more sort of time and motivation to reach out to clients and be like, I do murals. I'd love to work with you. And I'd love to work with you. And this way, because I was so sort of like, I was a little bit pretty naive. I was just like, when you're just excited, you're like, I don't care. I'm going to write everyone. And honestly, because I was so ambitious about it, I think it's sort of like my time got filled up with different type of projects, but that attracted also the type of people you work with, you know, and the type of projects that you execute, and it's all about building, I think, that little category, that world that you invest in. Like if I wanted to do children's books, I better like talk to some publishers or else it's not just gonna show up at my door, you know. So
I think too that's a reason that we often say here at Thrive, for as long as you can, have something else paying your bills, because just hearing you speak about, you know, getting your work in front of these other places, like that is just time. And at the beginning, they're not rolling in the offers, and just taking that time to find your voice as an artist and figure out what you want to do. Because when you are in a position, when I started and I had left my job to paint, I was painting to make money, and that really dictated my work. And so now seeing Thrive artists, the ideas and the projects that they're interested in, it's like some of that takes just space to develop your work and to figure out how to get into those worlds, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I, even if you're, or like, if you are, what I take away from that, like if you're making a switch from doing, let's say, children's books into doing textile, I think that transition is not like you stop doing everything altogether and just move on to textiles and abruptly. I think the transition has to be smooth from one category of creative output to another. And and I think it's something that resonated with me, Jamie, is what you said about goals being different, because we grow, you know, as we grow as an artist, you open different horizons for yourself. And the interesting thing that I noticed in the past, so I've been full-time artist since 2012. Oh my gosh, yeah, or something like that. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Anyway, well, no, I mean, I graduated in 2012 in Car. So, and I quickly just started doing art and nothing else. That was my whole thing, is like, how am I able to do, have all my income come from art? And although it wasn't much, at the beginning, I really wanted that, like, I really wanted to stick to that concept. But, and my whole thing is just like, just getting a project in, just as many as possible projects to fit into a year, just, but that goal has shifted. And now it's like, well, I want it to be a project that's like, maybe I'll do way less, but they're going to be all really interesting for me. Maybe next year that goal is going to change again. Like maybe it's like, I don't want to do any, commercial work. I only want to do personal work. And so I think something is like being okay to let go of old goals is completely healthy. And I haven't nailed it yet, but I'm looking forward to it.
Well, and with that is practicing saying no to those those old opportunities. And it's just, if for a year like you said, Ola, you were in that phase of say yes to everything and fill up a year, we have to be kind to ourselves too, that it's going to take a while for us to like shake that hustle and that habit, because of course that's how we've been living. So then it needs to shift into this new phase of your time where it's like time is the thing, and pushing yourself creatively, connect and create, right? Ola, do you have a struggle for us this month?
Well, I think it's exactly what sort of we talked about. It's funny that Tara asked that question, but it kind of had a leeway to what I was thinking so much about, is being okay with saying no to projects. And a lot of the times I see the opportunity in some of them, quite like a good one. But when people, I think a lot of people forget that if they reach out to you, they're like, I need this in like 2 weeks. Like, you have all the time. You're like, I'm already booked up until March. Like I have my like March and June and May is already booked up. Like it's not so much about also the opportunity, but like understanding that some people just want the projects done too quickly, and instead of pushing yourself and being like, oh my God, I'm going to be stressed out for the next month, but I'll get this project done, or just say no and like be good to yourself, and another opportunity will come later on in the year similar to that, I'm sure. So
amen,
anyways.
sister.
Yeah. I mean, no was my word of the year last year, and I feel like I really like it now and it feels good. But I did actually very recently, someone who I said no to, who offered me a great opportunity, but I still said no, we brought it up with me, and she's like, oh, do you remember when you said no to this thing? And I thought, ooh, was I nice? And she said that the response that I gave and the way I said no actually was inspiring to her in her own life. So
how did you go about it?
How did I go about it?
How did you do it?
Okay, so it was one of those things where I had tried to, it was an old goal. I thought I wanted this thing, and I was working hard and pushing and pushing and pushing for it. And then I realized that I had made it happen, but it was not what I wanted. And then so I'd made that decision. And then, of course, after I'd made the decision, I got the offer to do this thing. And I knew it was a no. And so I said, I think I just said, thank you. I took time to think about it. And I said, thank you so much for this offer. It sounds wonderful and lovely, and I appreciate that. And, I was positive, and I said, but I have to be honest that I'm actually stepping away from doing these kinds of projects because I'm focusing on these other kinds of projects. And I'll have to decline this time. But if that changes, I will be in touch. I think that's pretty much what I said.
And I remember I was there when she told Tara this, and she's like, I felt really excited for you because you explained why. And so she said, I thought if anything else had come up with the thing that I knew you wanted, I had you in mind then. I thought that was really neat.
Yeah. And I mean, there also is something to be said for just no is a complete sentence as well.
Yeah.
You can just say no.
She is good at it.
Yeah. Well, at the end of last year, I really had to practice that no as a complete sentence. It's not an invitation for a negotiation. When I say no, that's it. This is outside of an art opportunity, but I think we're all women, especially, are expected to be so nice and so like, oh, but you can just say, thanks so much for the offer. This is not a project that I'm able to take on at this time, or this is not a project that aligns with what I'm doing right now. Thanks so much, Ola. Like, it doesn't have to be that long.
Hey, Ola. Yeah. Another strategy that I find kind of funny, but it does work, is that you can pretend that you have your studio manager.
Yes.
And have a template written out that says, dear blah, 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 Ola is not taking on these types of projects right now. And you write it and you name her Jenny or whatever you want. And basically you start sending those, because it's so different having it come from, not from you, because then you can just be like, oh, that Jenny, she's a hard ass.
Yeah, and then you have a template. And then for some other people, if you want to keep a potential down the line, then it can be a little bit more flowery or personal.
Oh, that's great advice. And my other question to you guys is, one of the things that also is a challenge is the accessibility, right? You guys are running, I don't know, it's you guys, but you guys have, Instagram and Facebook and emails, and, I'm sure that they come from other sources, questions, and then can come from all kinds of ways. So sometimes I'm like, just when I'm done answering emails, somebody on, maybe like on Instagram, be like, you never got back to me. And you're like, oh shit. Oh yeah, Instagram. And then somebody on Facebook would be like, what about that question? Like, and then there's the text messages, and you're like, Jesus, can it all just be in one bucket? But also just sending, like, I treat my emails much more professionally than I treat like a Facebook message. So do you think that speaks volume? Like, do you think everybody thinks that way, or is that the expectation should be the same, that if you're an entrepreneur, you should treat all of those lines the same way?
This is a good Tara answer for you.
So you will get the best possible communication from me through email. And so I let people know that. So if they send an Instagram message or a Facebook message or whatever, I tell them, to avoid this conversation getting lost, please send it to my inbox, and either it's directing it to Thrive's inbox or my artist inbox, depending what it's about. Because sometimes I'll get something about Tara through Thrive, through, it gets people, I don't know how people are living their lives, but how I live my life is I want it on email. So I just direct them to go there. If they never send me an email, then I know they weren't that serious.
But the key here, Ola, because this is what I had to learn from Tara, is you can't even answer a little bit of the question on the Instagram or the Facebook, because then it shows you're not serious. So I now follow suit, because I would have my bad habits and I would write a little bit of an answer or some of an answer, and then they'd write back and I'd forget about it, and I wasn't sure if Tara had written or I had written. And so I had to shape up because of the team. So for you, I understand how it's just you dealing with this stuff, but it's now we never get messages on Facebook or Instagram if it's anything about like a real question. It's all just, here's the email, like, look forward to hearing from you.
Yeah. Unless it's a yes or a no, you have to be in the email inbox.
Yeah.
Which
or
sounds,
emojis. I like emojis.
Which maybe for some people could sound harsh, but I want to make sure that we don't lose our communications, and they do hear from me, and that then it can be a positive thing. But I don't know, Instagram and Facebook, I don't go on Facebook, so you'll never hear from me. Yeah, it's just, and if that communication style, to be able to Facebook message, is really important to someone, I respect that, but we're probably not going to be able to work together. That's okay. There's people who like inboxes, like you, Ola.
I don't like any inbox.
I know. Yeah. Well, the next struggle is how do we stop people from emailing us? Actually, no, it's a good problem to have. Please email us.
Much more. I think you're right, Tara. I think, and Jamie, you guys are right when it comes to inboxes, like in the email, I look at, like, my eyes are different when I see email come in. I'm like, I treat it professionally instantly. If I see that it's not an opportunity for me, I go about it a different way, but at least I look at it as it's not lost.
Mm-hmm.
And things just get lost, and the guilt takes over when somebody says, like, I've asked you 3 times on Instagram. I'm like, yeah, but like, no. Anyway, so I think it's really good.
Also, maybe you are somebody who doesn't have to respond to every single thing that somebody sends you. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what these people are saying, but there's some messages I don't respond to because it's just some nutter. I mean, bless them, but no.
No. The echo's back. No.
Oh, dear.
So my struggle, I feel like I don't need you two, because I need to just myself here to come to terms with it. So my whole thing was going to ask is how to take time off, because Ola, I know that you had gone to Australia around this time last year, but just listening to all of this, and it's self-care and saying no and setting up boundaries, and that's what I'm going to do.
Enjoy yourself and like flirt away while you're in Australia. It's the summer. Everybody's out. Everybody's, it's just, I feel like it was such a good change to go there in the winter.
Yeah.
And like, I didn't know anybody there. I didn't care. I was like talking to people in the bar or wherever, and I just I felt very, I don't know, like a completely different wave in Australia. I think the season has so much to do with that.
Yeah.
And would recommend just like, don't be shy, talk to anybody you want, and then also just like don't check in with Vancouver too much. Just check in with Australia most of the time.
Be there.
Yeah, we'll have a plan of like when I can expect to hear from you and the things that you will do, but beyond that, just go away and have fun.
Go away.
Have fun.
I'll do
come back. Bring some sun.
Yeah.
That's all I need.
Okay. I'll bring you a kangaroo. This was a wonderful conversation. It is an hour and a half, so we did not keep our promise to these lovely people. And if they're still listening to us, thank you so much. We love you. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, you can email us at info@thriveartstudio.com. You've learned today we will not answer Facebook messages or Instagram messages. Email us. You can find us on Instagram at Thrive Art Studio, or on Facebook, just the same, Thrive Art Studio. Tara, where can we find you?
I'm at Tara Galuska on Instagram.
Ola, how can we track you down?
You can track me down on Instagram at Ola Volo.
Awesome. And you have to go on there and check out all her big murals. And you can find me at Jamie Smith Studio.
And on the beach in Australia.
Yeah. Not thinking about Tara or any of you wonderful artists. It's going to be hard. And big thank you, Ola, for being here. It's just been lovely to have this chat, and we're so appreciative of you as a mastermind member. Sounds like we'll be coming to Montreal.
Yes.
Also, a big thank you to Ellen, Limin, and Victoria for all their hard work and support every month. And again, to Marty and Lori from Sonus Media. They help us by editing and posting the podcast, and we really couldn't do this without them.
We love you guys.
And big thank you to everyone who's been sharing the podcast. It means a lot to us. We hope that these provide inspiration and motivation for all of you artists to keep doing the work.
Thank you guys for having me. It was such a pleasure to chat, and honestly feels like exactly what the things I wanted to ask and the things I want to talk about. We tackled a bunch of them, so thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Ola. I really appreciated what you brought to the conversation. I needed that too.
Tara's happy.
I'm really
Tara's
happy.
so we're all happy.
Yay!
To learn more about the program and to apply, head on over to thriveartstudio.com/mastermind. We can't wait to hear from you.